Hey, besties! Welcome back to Auntie Unplugged. If you're new here, I'm your favorite dramatic, slightly chaotic, coffee obsessed suburban auntie mom hybrid who always keeps it 100% real. Grab your iced caramel macchiato, your cozy blanket, and get comfy because today, we are starting a brand new story that's going to take us on the wildest emotional ride. This one is called The Hidden Saturdays. And trust me, by the end, you're going to cry, you're going to gasp, and you're going to hug your family a little tighter tonight. Picture this. It all began with one simple habit that lasted 42 years of marriage. Every single Saturday morning, rain or shine, sick or healthy, my husband Tom would wake up before the sun, pack his little cooler with turkey sandwiches on rye, kiss my forehead, and whisper the exact same words. Just checking on the old place, Sarah, keeping things tidy. I never thought twice about it. Why would I? Tom was a high school history teacher, the most reliable man in town. Bills always paid on time, taxes filed early, retirement looking solid. He handled the money, I handled the garden and the grandkids' visits. We had the perfect routine. Until the day he died, and one plain white envelope showed up with no return address. Inside was a brass key and coordinates to a place I'd never heard of. That envelope changed everything. It unraveled 42 years of marriage, revealed secrets I never imagined, and forced me to rebuild a life from absolute ashes. But besties, what grew from those ashes? A family bigger than I ever dreamed, a legacy of truth and healing, and a strength I didn't know I had. This story is long, it's emotional, it's messy, it's beautiful, and it's all coming to you chapter by chapter, tear by tear, rose by rose. So if you're ready to cry with me, heal with me, and bloom with me, hit that subscribe button right now, turn on the bell so you never miss a part, and drop a rose in the comments if you're already hooked. Because this journey starts now, and trust me, you're going to want to see how it ends. I love you all already. Let's begin. My name is Sarah Ellison, and for 42 years I was married to Thomas Michael Harlan, Tom to everyone who loved him, which seemed to be the entire town. He taught high school history, coached the debate team, and could quote entire passages from the Constitution without looking. People trusted him instinctively. I trusted him completely. Every Saturday morning, rain or shine, sick or healthy, Tom would wake before dawn. I'd feel the mattress shift as he slipped out of bed, hear the soft clink of the thermos as he filled it with coffee, the rustle of the small cooler where he packed 2 turkey sandwiches on rye, an apple, and a thermos of soup in winter. He'd lean over me, kiss my temple, and whisper the same words every single time. Just checking on the old place, Sarah, keeping things tidy. Then he'd be gone until late afternoon, sometimes dusk. I never asked where exactly the old place was. I assumed it was the 100-acre farm his grandparents had owned outside Milford, 40 miles north, the one with the crumbling barn and the overgrown fields he'd inherited when his father died. Tom was sentimental about history, about roots. It made sense that he'd drive out there to clear brush, patch fences, keep the family land from falling completely into ruin. Why would I doubt it? We had a good life, a paid-off mortgage on our 3-bedroom colonial, 2 kids raised and launched, retirement accounts that Tom assured me were healthy and growing. He handled the money, I handled the garden, the book club, the grandkids' visits. It worked.
The day he died, I was at the grocery store debating between Honeycrisp and Gala apples. My phone rang. It was Lisa, our daughter. Her voice sounded wrong, thin, careful, like she was holding the words with tweezers. "Mom, you need to come to St. Mary's. Dad's been in an accident." By the time I got there, he was gone. Single car crash on County Road 17. The sheriff said it looked like he'd had a massive coronary event behind the wheel. The car drifted into a ditch and flipped. Quick, no suffering. The way Tom would have scripted it if he'd had the choice. The funeral was packed. Former students, colleagues, neighbors, all telling stories about how Mr. Harlan had changed their lives. I stood there in black, nodding, smiling when expected, but inside I felt strangely hollow. Not just grief, something quieter, like a door I hadn't noticed had been closed forever. A week later, a small padded envelope arrived in the mail. No return address, my name typed on a plain white label. Inside was a single brass key on a worn leather fob and a folded sheet of heavy paper. The handwriting wasn't Tom's, but it was careful, almost apologetic. "Tom's secret. He wanted you to know eventually. Coordinates 45.1234N, 45.5678W. I'm sorry. Forgive me if you can. E." My stomach flipped. I called Mark, our son, who lived 20 minutes away with his wife Jenna and their 2 little ones. He came over immediately, took one look at my face, and said, "Mom, this could be a scam or a prank. We should call the police." But curiosity is a powerful thing, and grief makes you reckless. We decided to drive out together the next morning. The GPS took us north, past the old Harlan farmstead I'd expected, deeper into pine forest on a narrow county road that turned to gravel, then dirt. The coordinates led to a hidden driveway marked only by a rusted mailbox, half swallowed by vines. We followed it for nearly a mile until a small clearing opened up. There, nestled among towering pines, sat a beautiful cedar log cabin, new roof, stone chimney, wrap-around porch with Adirondack chairs. Smoke curled lazily from the chimney, even though it was early spring. Someone was home. Mark parked. We sat in silence for a long moment. "This isn't the farm," he said quietly. I shook my head. The key in my hand felt suddenly heavy. A woman appeared on the porch, mid-40s, dark hair in a loose braid, wearing jeans and a flannel shirt. She froze when she saw us. 2 teenagers followed her out, a boy about 15, tall and lanky like Tom had been at that age, and a girl around 12 with Tom's hazel eyes. My breath caught. The woman walked towards us slowly. "You're Sarah," she said. It wasn't a question. I nodded, unable to speak. "I'm Elena Ramirez." She gestured towards the kids. "This is Tommy Jr. and Mia, our children. Tom's children." The world tilted. Mark grabbed my arm to steady me. Elena invited us inside. The cabin was warm, lived in, beautiful. Photos everywhere. Tom holding a newborn Tommy, Tom teaching Mia to fish, Tom and Elena on the porch swing laughing. A life I never knew existed. She made coffee while the kids hovered awkwardly in the kitchen doorway. Then she told us everything. She'd met Tom 17 years earlier when he'd come to the community college where she worked as an administrative assistant to give a guest lecture on local history. They'd started an affair. When she got pregnant, Tom promised to leave me. He never did. Instead, he bought the land anonymously, built the cabin slowly over years, and lived a double life. Every Saturday was his day with his other family. He told Elena I was emotionally distant, that our marriage was over in all but name. He was only staying for the kids' sake until they were grown. He told me he was preserving family land. He'd been transferring money steadily, $2,000 a month at first, then more as the kids grew. Private school tuition, braces, summer camps, college funds for Tommy. He'd taken out a second mortgage on our house without my knowledge, refinanced investments, opened credit lines in my name with forged signatures. By the time Mark and I sat in that warm cedar living room, our retirement accounts were nearly empty, and our home was $420,000 underwater. Elena cried when she realized the extent of it. She had no idea he was stealing from me to support them. She thought the money came from wise investments, from his teacher's pension. The kids were devastated, their father gone, their home built on lies. Lisa refused to believe it at first. When I called her that night, voice shaking, she screamed, "This is insane. Dad would never. You're stressed. You're imagining things. You're destroying his memory." She hung up and didn't speak to me for weeks. Mark was furious. Quiet, cold fury. He hired a forensic accountant. We discovered Tom had been meticulous. Separate phone, separate email, separate bank accounts. He'd even used a post office box in a neighboring town for statements. 42 years of marriage, and I never suspected. The legal battle was brutal. Banks wanted their money. Elena sold the cabin to pay down some debt, but most fell on our estate. We lost the colonial house I'd lived in for 38 years. I moved into a small apartment above a bookstore downtown. Mark and Jenna helped me pack. Lisa still wouldn't come. The lowest point was when Tommy Jr., 15 years old, grieving his father, showed up at my apartment one Saturday with a box of Tom's things from the cabin. Dad said if anything ever happened to him, you should have these. Inside were letters Tom had written to me but never sent. Apologies, explanations, confessions. The last one dated a month before his death. "Sarah, if you're reading this, I ran out of time. I never meant to hurt you. I loved you both, in different ways maybe, but real. I got scared of getting old alone, scared of choosing. I thought I could keep both worlds spinning forever. I was a coward. I'm sorry for the money, for the lies, for the life I stole from you. You deserved better. Forgive me if you can. If you can't, I understand. Tom." I cried for 3 days straight. Slowly, things shifted. Elena reached out, ashamed, wanting to make amends. We met for coffee. She was kind, broken, a fellow victim in her own way. The kids started visiting, tentative at first. Mia loved gardening. We planted roses together in pots on my tiny balcony. Tommy was quiet, but helped Mark fix things around the apartment. Lisa finally came around 6 months later, after Tommy sent her a letter explaining how Tom had talked about her constantly, how proud he'd been. She showed up at my door, sobbing. We held each other for an hour without speaking. I started working part-time at the bookstore downstairs, something to do, money to live. The owner, Ruth, became a friend. One slow afternoon, a woman came in, asking for books.
3 years have passed since that Saturday when Mark and I first drove down the hidden driveway to the cedar cabin. I'm 70 now, and some mornings my knees remind me of it, but most days I feel lighter than I did in my 50s. The apartment above the bookstore is small, 2 bedrooms, 1 bath, a galley kitchen with a window that looks out over Main Street, but it's mine. Every inch of it paid for with money I earned myself. No secrets tucked behind the walls. The support group has grown. We outgrew the back room at Ruth's bookstore and now meet in the community center on Thursday nights. 25 women on a good week, sometimes 30. They come with folders of bank statements, divorce papers, questions they're afraid to ask anyone else. I listen more than I talk these days. I've learned that the most powerful thing you can give someone who's been lied to for years is the simple belief that their story is true. Lisa moved back to town last year. She and her husband bought a house 2 streets over from my apartment. Their youngest starts kindergarten in the fall, and Lisa drops her off at my place some mornings so she can have an hour to herself. We drink coffee on the balcony among the potted roses. Mia helped me choose the varieties, and we talk about everything except Tom for the first half hour. Then, when the silence feels safe, one of us brings him up. Not with anger anymore, more like handling a fragile artifact we're still trying to understand. Mark and Jenna had a third baby, a girl they named Rose after my mother. Tommy Jr., 18 now, taller than his father ever was, comes over most Sundays to mow my tiny patch of lawn and fix whatever's broken. He's studying engineering at the State University on a scholarship he earned himself. Mia is 15, all long legs and quick laughter. She calls me Grandma Sarah without hesitation, and when she hugs me, I can feel Tom in the shape of her arms, but I don't flinch anymore. The good parts of him live on in her, and I've made peace with that. Elena sold the cabin 2 years ago. The money went into trust funds for Tommy and Mia, untouchable until they're 25. She moved to the city, got her nursing degree, and works in the cardiac unit at St. Mary's, the same hospital where Tom died. She says the irony isn't lost on her. We meet for lunch every few months. The conversations are careful but honest. We don't pretend to be friends, but we're something closer to allies who survived the same storm. Last spring, the support group put together a little cookbook, recipes from women who'd learned to cook for one after decades of cooking for a family. I contributed my mother's lemon pound cake and Tom's favorite turkey sandwich recipe: rye bread, mustard, thin slices of apple. The irony wasn't lost on me either. We sold 500 copies at the farmer's market and used the money to pay for a financial literacy workshop taught by a woman who'd once lost everything to a husband's gambling. Some nights I still dream about the old colonial house, the kitchen where I painted the cabinets yellow twice because Tom hated the first shade, the backyard where we buried our dog, Max, under the maple tree, the bedroom where I found that padded envelope on the kitchen counter. In the dreams, I walk through the rooms calling his name, but the house is empty, and the echoes don't answer. I wake up relieved to be in my small apartment with its creaky floors and the sound of Ruth locking up the bookstore downstairs. Yesterday was what would have been our 45th anniversary. I didn't mark it on the calendar anymore, but my body remembered. I closed the bookstore early, walked to the cemetery where we'd scattered most of Tom's ashes, and left a single white rose on the memorial stone. Then I drove out to the real Harlan farmstead, the one I'd believed he visited every Saturday for 42 years. The barn has finally collapsed, but the fields are coming back with wildflowers. I sat on the same porch steps where I'd scattered the last of his ashes 3 years ago and spoke out loud for the first time in a long while. I forgive you, Tom. Not for your sake, for mine. But I won't forget, and I won't let what you did define the rest of my life. The wind moved through the tall grass, and for a moment I thought I heard him answer. Maybe I did. Maybe it was just the sound of letting go. When I got home, there was a text from Mia, a photo of her and Tommy planting roses on their apartment balcony. The caption read, "Learned from the best. Love you, Grandma Sarah." I smiled, poured myself a glass of wine, and sat on my own balcony watching the sunset over Main Street. The light caught the leaves of my potted roses and turned them gold. 45 years ago, I promised to love Tom in good times and bad, in sickness and health, for richer or poorer. I kept that promise. But the promise I've made to myself since then is simpler and stronger. I will live the rest of my life in the truth, with my eyes open, my heart whole, and my name, Sarah Ellison, spoken proudly, without apology. And that, finally, is a vow no one can break. 4 years now. The calendar flipped to 2026 without much fanfare. Just a quiet toast with Ruth and the regular Thursday night group. Sparkling cider and paper cups because someone was celebrating 6 months divorce finalized. I turned 71 in March. The bookstore threw me a party with a cake shaped like an open book. Mia and Lisa decorated it together, laughing over the frosting roses until they looked drunk. I caught them hugging in the back room afterward and pretended I didn't see the tears. The support group has a name now, Second Chapter. We registered as a nonprofit last fall. A local law firm donates pro bono hours every month. A credit union runs free financial literacy classes in the community center annex. We've helped 43 women clear fraudulent debt from their credit reports, 16 keep their homes, and 2 start small businesses. One of them, Carla, opened a bakery downtown and named her signature lemon pound cake Sarah's Redemption. Every time I walk past the display case, I feel something warm settle in my chest that has nothing to do with sugar. Tommy graduated in May, mechanical engineering, summa cum laude. I sat in the auditorium between Elena and Mark, clutching a tissue I didn't end up needing. When his name was called, he looked straight at our row, grinned that crooked Harlan grin, and mouthed, "Thank you, Grandma." Elena reached over and squeezed my hand. We didn't let go until the ceremony ended. Lisa and her husband are expecting again, another girl, due in August. They asked if I'd be in the delivery room. I said yes before they finished the sentence. Some nights she calls just to talk about paint colors for the nursery, and halfway through she'll say, "Mom, do you think Dad ever regretted it?" I always answer the same. I think he regretted a lot of things, but he loved you completely. That part was never a lie. It's taken us years to find language that holds both truths at once. Mia started driving this year. Her first solo trip was to my apartment with a bouquet of grocery store roses and a nervous smile. She said, "I wanted to take you to dinner, my treat." We went to the little Italian place on the corner, the one with the red checked tablecloths. She ordered spaghetti carbonara, Tom's favorite, and I ordered the same without thinking. Halfway through the meal, she set her fork down and said, "I used to hate that he lied to you. I thought if he lied to you, maybe he was lying to us too." I waited. But I get it now. He wasn't lying about loving us. He was just scared of losing any of us, and he lost all of us anyway. She started crying quietly into her napkin. I reached across the table and covered her hand with mine. "He did lose us," I said, "but we found each other. That's what matters now." Mark and Jenna bought the old Harlan farmstead last summer, the real one, the 100 acres of fields and crumbling barn. They're fixing it up slowly. New roof on the farmhouse, clearing brush, planting an orchard. They invited me out for the first harvest picnic in September. All of us were there. Mark's family, Lisa's, Elena, Tommy, Mia. We spread blankets under the apple trees and ate turkey sandwiches on rye. Someone, Lisa, I think, started laughing about how Tom would have loved seeing the place alive again. Then we were all laughing, and then we were quiet, and then Mia raised her plastic cup of cider and said, "To complicated people and the families they leave behind." We drank to that. I still dream about the cedar cabin sometimes. In the dreams, I walk through the rooms and everything is empty. No photos, no drawings on the fridge, just sunlight through the windows and the smell of pine. I wake up calm. The cabin belongs to someone else now, a young couple who turned it into an Airbnb.
They send me a Christmas card every year with a photo of their toddler on the porch swing. I keep the cards in a shoebox on the top shelf of my closet. This morning, January 1st, 2026, I woke early, made coffee, and stood on my balcony watching the town wake up under a thin layer of snow. The roses are dormant, wrapped in burlap, but I know they'll come back. They always do. I'm not the woman Tom married 46 years ago. I'm not even the woman who opened that padded envelope 4 years ago. I'm Sarah Ellison, grandmother to 6, soon 7, friend to Ruth and Elena and Carla and dozens of others, founder of Second Chapter, keeper of complicated truths. I pay my own bills, choose my own paint colors, take solo trips to places Tom and I always talked about but never went. Last fall, I spent 2 weeks in Tuscany by myself, painting watercolors that are terrible but entirely mine. Some days, I still miss the man I thought I knew. Most days, I'm grateful for the woman I've become without him. The story isn't over. None of our stories ever really are. But the chapter I was afraid would end me turned out to be the one where I finally began. And that, more than anything Tom ever built or hid or promised, feels like the truest kind of legacy. I woke this morning to the sound of snow tapping gently against my bedroom window. The apartment was quiet, the kind of quiet that feels earned rather than empty. I made coffee in the French press Ruth gave me for Christmas, wrapped myself in the quilt Lisa pieced together from old family shirts, some of them Tom's, some mine, some from the kids' childhoods, and stepped onto the balcony. The town was blanketed white, the streetlights still glowing softly in the pre-dawn dark. My roses slept under their burlap wraps, but I could already picture the new growth pushing through in spring. Second Chapter celebrated its 5th anniversary last fall. We held it at the community center, with nearly 60 women in attendance, some who'd been coming since the beginning, others who'd found us only weeks before. Carla catered from her bakery, Mia and her high school jazz band provided music, Tommy emceed with a confidence that made my throat tight. We unveiled a plaque on the wall, in honor of the women who turned survival into strength. My name isn't on it, I insisted. This isn't about one story anymore. Lisa's second daughter, June, arrived right on schedule last August. 8 pounds, dark hair like her mother's, hazel eyes that remind everyone of Tom in the softest way. I was in the delivery room holding Lisa's hand the same way my mother held mine when Lisa was born. When June let out her first cry, Lisa looked at me through tears and exhaustion and whispered, "Thank you for teaching me how to be strong." I didn't have words, so I just kissed her forehead the way Tom used to kiss mine every Saturday morning before he left for a life I didn't know existed. Mark and Jenna finished restoring the farmhouse on the old Harlan land. They turned the barn into an event space and host weddings, reunions, and Second Chapter retreats there now. The first retreat was last summer, 20 women, 3 days, no phones, just talking, walking the fields, planting roses along the fence line. One evening, we built a bonfire in the old fire ring, and each woman wrote something she wanted to release on a slip of paper. We burned them together. Mine simply read, "The marriage I thought I had." The smoke rose straight into a clear summer sky, and no one tried to speak over the crackle of the flames. Elena got married last spring to a kind cardiologist named David who treats her the way she deserves. Tommy walked her down the aisle. Mia was maid of honor. I sat in the second row on the bride's side holding June, who was fascinated by my necklace. When Elena reached the part in her vows about choosing honesty every day from this day forward, she looked straight at me and smiled. I nodded back. Some reconciliations don't need words. Tommy proposed to his college girlfriend, Aisha, over Christmas. They're planning a small wedding next fall at the farm. He asked if I'd officiate. I got ordained online last year for a second chapter member's vow renewal. I said yes before he finished the question. Mia, now 17, is applying to art schools. She paints large, abstract canvases full of color and movement. Her latest series is called Roots and Branches. The central piece shows two trees growing from the same soil, their branches intertwining high above, while their roots remain separate below. She hung it in my living room without asking. It fits perfectly over the couch. I still work at the bookstore 3 days a week. Ruth retired last year and left it to me in her will, said I'd earned it by keeping more than just books alive. I changed the name to Second Chapter Books and Cafe. Carla supplies the pastries, Mia designed the logo. On quiet afternoons, I sit at the corner table with my laptop and write the book I've been avoiding for years. It's not a tell-all, it's not bitter, it's simply the truth, how a 42-year marriage built on love and trust unraveled into 2 families, how betrayal can hollow you out and still leave room for something new to grow, how forgiveness isn't a single moment, but 1,000 small choices made every day. The manuscript is nearly finished. My editor, a woman who found Second Chapter after her own husband's hidden gambling debts, says it will help people. I believe her. This morning, after coffee, I bundled up and walked to the cemetery. The snow was fresh and untouched. I brushed it from Tom's stone and left a single red rose, Houthaus, bright against the white. I didn't speak this time. There was nothing left to say. Then I walked the long way home, past the bakery where Carla waved through the window, past the park where Mark's kids were already building a lopsided snowman, past the community center where tonight another circle of chairs will wait for women ready to tell their truths. I climbed the stairs to my apartment, kicked off my boots, and stood on the balcony again. The sun was fully up now, turning the snow into a field of tiny diamonds. Somewhere below, a child laughed. Somewhere inside me, the woman I used to be smiled at the woman I've become and said finally, "We're home." The story keeps going, not because the pain is gone, but because the living is so much larger than the loss. And that, after everything, feels like the greatest plot twist of all. The snow came early this year, a heavy, wet blanket that turned the town into a postcard overnight. I woke to the sound of shovels scraping sidewalks below my balcony and the smell of wood smoke drifting up from someone's fireplace. At 72, my hips protest stairs more than they used to, but I still take them one at a time, steady, deliberate. The French press is older now, a little chipped on the handle, but it still makes the best coffee in town. Second Chapter Books and Cafe celebrated its 3rd anniversary under my ownership in November. We closed early, pushed the tables together, and threw a potluck. Carla brought 3 trays of lemon pound cake. Mia, now 19 and home from art school for the weekend, painted a mural on the back wall, 2 intertwining rose vines, one blooming red, one white, roots tangled deep beneath the soil. Everyone signed their name somewhere in the leaves. Tommy and Aisha's wedding photo hangs behind the register now, taken under the apple trees at the farm, both of them laughing so hard their eyes are closed. They bought a small house 2 blocks from Mark and Jenna. Aisha teaches 3rd grade. Tommy designs bridges for the county. They're expecting their first in June. June's June is 4 now, a whirlwind of questions and curls. She spends Tuesdays with me while Lisa works part-time at the community center coordinating Second Chapter's outreach programs. We bake cookies, badly, read picture books about brave grandmothers, and plant new rose cuttings in egg cartons on the windowsill. When she asks why there are so many pictures of different kids on my fridge, I tell her the truth in 4-year-old language. Because love makes families in all kinds of ways, and Grandma got extra lucky. Mark and Jenna turned the old Harlan barn into a certified venue last year. They host everything from weddings to fundraisers now. The first second chapter gala was held there in October. String lights in the rafters, long tables groaning with food, a silent auction of art donated by Mia's professors and local painters. We raised enough to hire a full-time counselor for the group. Her name is Sophia. She's 35, sharp-eyed, gentle-voiced, and survived her own husband's hidden addiction. She fits like she was always meant to be there. Elena and David retired early and bought a small place on a lake 2 hours north. They fish, garden, and spoil all the grandchildren equally. Mia spends summers with them. Tommy drives up most weekends. Elena sent me a photo last month, the 4 of them on the dock at sunset, Mia's head on Elena's shoulder, David holding up a string of perch, Tommy laughing at something off camera. She captioned it, Family version 2.0. I printed it and added it to the fridge collage. The book came out last spring. I titled it Roots and Branches after Mia's painting series. It's not a memoir exactly, more a braided story. My marriage, the discovery, the rebuilding, interwoven with chapters from other second chapter women, names changed, permission granted. The dedication reads, To every woman who opened a door she didn't want to open and walked through anyway. It hit the local bestseller list for 6 weeks running, mostly because every book club in 3 counties adopted it. I did a few readings, nervous at first, then steadier. The questions are always the same. How did you forgive him? How did you forgive yourself? My answer has settled into something simple. I didn't forgive him for his sake. I forgave the idea of him so I could keep living. And I forgave myself for trusting, because trust isn't a flaw, it's a strength, even when it's wounded. Ruth passed last winter, peacefully in her sleep at 87. She left me the building outright. No mortgage, no debt. The cafe is Ruth's Corner now. There's a brass plaque by the pastry case. For the woman who taught me that a good book and a strong cup of coffee can hold you until you're ready to hold yourself. This morning, after coffee, I walked to the farm. The snow was deep enough to crunch satisfyingly under my boots. Mark had plowed the driveway, but the field.
The snow this year is light, almost polite, dusting the town like powdered sugar rather than burying it. I woke before dawn, as I often do these days, and watched the first flakes drift past the street lamp outside my window. At 73, sleep is a fickle friend, here for a few hours, gone for a few more. But I don't mind the quiet hours. They're good for thinking, for remembering without hurry. Second chapter books and cafe is busier than ever. We expanded into the empty storefront next door last summer, knocked out a wall, added more tables, a small stage for readings and open mic nights. Mia's mural now stretches across both walls, the rose vines thicker, more intertwined, new blooms added every time she comes home from school. The cafe runs a pay-what-you-can shelf now, books and pastries for anyone who needs them. Carla trains apprentices from the local high school. 2 of them are daughters of women who came through our support group years ago. The circle keeps widening. Tommy and Aisha's son, Elias Thomas, arrived in June. Dark hair, serious eyes, a cry that sounded like he had opinions from day one. I held him in the hospital an hour after he was born, and he gripped my finger with surprising strength. Tommy whispered, "We want you to be his guardian if anything ever happens to us." I cried harder than I had in years, not from fear, but from the weight of being trusted so completely after once being lied to so thoroughly. Lisa was promoted to director of the community center last fall. She oversees all the family programs now, including Second Chapter's expanded services, legal clinics, housing assistance, a partnership with the credit union for microloans to women starting over. June is 6 and starting to read on her own. Her favorite book is one I wrote for the grandkids last Christmas, a simple picture book about a rose bush that loses all its petals in a storm but grows back stronger with help from the sun and rain and other plants around it. She calls it Grandma's True Story. Mark and Jenna welcomed their fourth last spring, a boy they named Harlan, after the land, not the man. The farm is thriving. Apple orchard, pumpkin patch in fall, Christmas trees in winter. They built a tiny guest cabin near the creek, cedar logs, of course, and I stay there when I want quiet. The first night I slept in it, I left the windows open and listened to the water all night. No dreams of empty rooms that time. Elena and David sold the lake house and moved back to town, closer to the grandkids, they said. David volunteers at the free clinic. Elena teaches nursing students part-time. We celebrated her 70th birthday in October with a surprise party at the farm. All the kids planned it. I made the cake, lemon pound, of course. When we sang, she looked around the table at every face. Tommy, Mia, Mark, Lisa, the little ones, and started crying. "I never thought I'd have this," she said. Neither did I. The second book came out last month, Mending the Branches, the men's stories alongside more from the women, plus letters from adult children trying to make sense of complicated parents. The dedication this time reads, "To the next generation, may you inherit honesty where we inherited silence." It's doing better than the first. A national morning show invited me for an interview next week. I said yes, but only if Sophia can come too. This isn't my story alone anymore. Mia graduated art school in December, BFA with honors. Her senior show was called Inheritance. The centerpiece was a life-size sculpture, 2 rose bushes made of welded scrap metal and blown glass, roots exposed and tangled, petals delicate and sharp. One bush bloomed red, the other white, but where they touched, the petals were pink. Critics called it a meditation on blended families and forgiveness. She just calls it us. This morning, after the snow stopped, I walked to the farm again. The kids had strung lights in the apple trees for New Year's, soft white bulbs glowing against the snow. Everyone was there already. Breakfast spread on the long farmhouse table, babies in high chairs, teenagers arguing over board games, dogs underfoot. Lisa handed me a mimosa. Mark kissed my cheek and said, "Happy New Year, Mom." Tommy raised his coffee mug in a quiet toast. Mia slipped her arm through mine and whispered, "Look what we built." I looked, really looked, at the noisy, imperfect, beautiful chaos around me. 7 grandchildren now, soon 8. Lisa's expecting again, a surprise at 44. 2 families braided into one, a farmhouse alive with light and laughter where silence and secrets once lived. Later, when the little ones napped and the adults lingered over coffee, I stepped outside alone. The snow had stopped. The air was crisp and still. I walked to the young apple tree where we'd scattered Ruth's ashes years ago. The branches were heavy with snow, but I could see the buds already forming beneath, tight, patient, waiting for spring. I didn't speak this time either. I just stood there, breathing in the cold, feeling the years settle around me like a warm coat I'd earned stitch by stitch. 7 years since the envelope, 7 years since the truth cracked everything open. And here I am, Sarah Ellison, 73 years old, surrounded by more love than I ever thought possible, rooted deep in ground I helped till myself. The roses will bloom again in a few months, the apple trees too. The children will grow, the stories will keep unfolding, and I will be here, eyes open, heart full, living every day in the wide, complicated, beautiful truth of it all. That's not just continuation. That's the life I chose after the one I didn't. The morning light came in pale and thin, the way it does when the sky is heavy with clouds but holding back the snow. I woke at my usual hour, slipped into my robe, and padded to the kitchen. The French press is showing its age, small cracks in the glass like fine wrinkles, but it still works perfectly. I ground the beans, a dark roast Elena and David brought back from Costa Rica last month, and watched the steam curl up while the town stirred below. At 74, my body has opinions about cold weather, but my mind feels clearer than it has in decades. The arthritis in my hands flares some days, yet I can still type for hours, still prune the balcony roses with the small Japanese shears Mia gave me for my birthday. The plants are stubborn. They bloom later every year as the climate shifts, but they bloom. Second Chapter Books and Cafe is more than a business now. It's an institution. We bought the building across the alley last spring and turned it into the Second Chapter House, 6 small apartments for women transitioning out of abusive situations, plus a communal kitchen, counseling offices, and a garden courtyard where we grow roses and vegetables. The grand opening was in June. All the kids came, Tommy and Aisha with 2-year-old Elias, who ran straight to the dirt and started helping plant tomatoes, Lisa with June and the new baby, Ivy, born just after Thanksgiving, Mark and Jenna with their 4, the youngest Harlan now toddling everywhere. Mia, 21 and interning at a gallery in Chicago, flew home for the weekend and painted a mural on the courtyard wall, a massive rose bush whose roots spelled out the word enough in flowing script. The house filled its first apartments within weeks. One resident, Marisol, is a former nurse whose husband drained their accounts for online gambling. She works the cafe counter now and makes the best cortado in town. Another, Grace, arrived with nothing but a suitcase and her teenage son. She's studying for her real estate license. He helps Tommy with weekend projects at the farm. Watching them settle in, watching fear turn to cautious hope, feels like the fullest circle I could have imagined. Lisa runs the entire Second Chapter nonprofit now. I stepped back from day-to-day management last year, handing her the reins with a mixture of pride and relief. She's better at it than I ever was. Organized, fierce, compassionate in ways that make people trust her instantly. Some evenings she drops by the apartment with Ivy strapped to her chest, and we sit on the balcony while June reads to the roses. Lisa says things like, "Mom, I used to be so angry at you for telling the truth. Now I see you saved us all by refusing to live the lie." I just squeeze her hand. Words aren't always necessary anymore. Tommy and Aisha bought the lot next to theirs and built a small accessory dwelling for Elena and David, who sold the lake house when the stairs got too hard on David's knees. The backyard is one big shared space now, swing set, vegetable beds, a fire pit where we gather on warm evenings. Elias calls me Nana Sarah and Elena Abuela. The first time he mixed the names up and called me Abuela Nana, we all laughed until we cried. Mia moved to Chicago permanently after graduation. Her first solo gallery show opened in November, sold out in 2 hours. The reviews called her a young artist reckoning with inherited trauma and chosen family with fearless grace. She sent me the catalog. On the dedication page, it reads, "For Grandma Sarah, who taught me that roots can be replanted." I keep it on the coffee table where everyone can see. Mark and Jenna's farm is officially a nonprofit now too, the Harlan Family Trust. They host summer camps for kids from fractured homes, teach them to plant apple trees and build birdhouses, let them run wild in the fields the way Tom never got to see. Harlan, their youngest, turned 5 last month and announced he wants to be a rose farmer when he grows up. I still write. The 3rd book is out next month, Enough, Stories from the Second Chapter House. It's shorter, quieter, a collection of letters women have written to their younger selves. Mine is the last one. I won't spoil it here. This morning, after coffee, I walked to the farm again. The clouds had broken, sunlight poured over the snow-covered orchard like warm honey. Everyone was waiting, breakfast ready, kids bundled up, dogs racing in circles. We ate pancakes and bacon, told stories, let the little ones nap on quilts by the fireplace. When the sun climbed higher, we all trooped outside to the newest apple tree, the one planted the year Elias was born. Under it, Mark had set a small bronze plaque none of us knew about until today. It reads, "In memory of Thomas Michael Harlan, teacher, father, husband, flawed human, whose mistakes taught us the value of truth, and whose absence made room for a larger love. Planted in hope, tended in honesty, Second Chapter Orchard,
2030. I stood there a long time, snow soaking through my boots, hand resting on the cold metal. No one rushed me. When I was ready, I turned to them, all of them, my impossible, beautiful, chosen family, and smiled. 8 years since the envelope. 8 years since everything I thought I knew came undone. And here we are, rooted deeper, branches wider, blooming later but brighter than ever. The roses will break through the snow again soon. The apple trees will bud. The children will keep growing. The stories will keep unfolding. I am Sarah Ellison, 74 years old, survivor, builder, grandmother, friend, keeper of truths, both painful and redemptive. And every morning when I wake to the quiet and the coffee and the light coming in, I know without doubt, this is the life I was always meant to live. Not the one that was hidden from me, the one I chose, day after day, in the wide open truth. And it is good. The snow fell thick and silent this morning, the kind that muffles the world until everything feels hushed, held in suspension. I woke early, as always, and stood at the balcony door longer than usual, watching the flakes drift past the street lamp's glow. At 76, my hands tremble slightly when I pour the coffee, but the French press still obeys me. The aroma rises the same way it has for decades, dark, steady, familiar. I didn't walk to the farm today. My knees decided otherwise, and for once I listened. Instead, I sat in my chair by the window, quilt over my lap, and let the memories come without fighting them. Second Chapter House is full again, always full. Lisa runs it all now with a grace I never had. The garden courtyard bloomed riotously last summer. Marisol's tomatoes won a blue ribbon at the county fair, and Grace sold her first house in September. The mural Mia painted has been touched up by new residents over the years. More vines, more roses, names added in tiny script along the stems whenever someone moves on to a life they built themselves. The bookstore below is quieter on winter mornings. Carla retired last year, passed the bakery to her daughter. The lemon pound cake recipe lives on, though, still called Sarah's Redemption, still the first thing to sell out. Tommy and Aisha have 3 children now. Elias is 6, full of questions. The twins, Lucia and Mateo, turned 3 in November. They call Elena Abuela and me Nana Sarah interchangeably, and no one corrects them. Mia's second solo show opens in New York next month. She's engaged to a quiet sculptor named Leo, who looks at her the way I once wished someone would look at me, with uncomplicated certainty. She sent me the invitation, a single red rose pressed between glass, the words, "You taught me how to bloom," engraved beneath. Lisa's ivy is 2. June is 8 and reading chapter books aloud to her little sister with dramatic voices that make us all laugh. Mark and Jenna's youngest, Harlan, is 7 and has declared he will marry June when they grow up. June informed him she's going to be president first. The farm thrives. The orchard gave its best harvest ever last fall. Bushels of apples pressed into cider that won a regional award. They bottled a small batch and labeled it Second Chance Cider. I keep one unopened bottle on my shelf. I published the final book last spring. It's slim, just letters to Tom that I never sent while he was alive, and letters to my younger self that I wish I could have sent. The last page is blank except for one line. You were enough, even when you didn't know it. I don't visit the cemetery anymore. The stone is there, the ashes scattered, the story told. Instead, I tend the roses on my balcony and the ones in the courtyard below. They're stubborn things, late to leaf, slow to bud, but when they finally open, the scent carries for blocks. This afternoon, the snow stopped and weak sunlight broke through. I wrapped myself in my coat and went down to the courtyard anyway. The roses were sleeping under their burlap, but I knelt, slowly, carefully, and brushed the snow from one small bud I'd noticed yesterday, tight and green against the cold. It won't open today, maybe not even this year, but it's there, waiting, patient, alive. 10 years since the envelope that unraveled everything I thought I knew. 10 years of choosing every single day to stay open to whatever came next. I stood up, knees protesting, and looked around at the quiet courtyard, the mural, the garden beds, the faint footprints of children who'd played here yesterday. Somewhere inside the house, a new resident was laughing with Sophia over coffee. Somewhere across town, my grandchildren were waking from naps. Somewhere, roses were dreaming under snow. I pressed my hand to my heart for a moment, felt it beat, steady and strong, and whispered the only words that still need saying. Thank you. For the pain that cracked me open, for the truth that set me free, for the love, complicated, imperfect, multiplied, that grew in the space the lies left behind. I am Sarah Ellison. I was married for 42 years to a man who hid an entire life from me. I have been rebuilding, re-rooting, re-blooming for 10. And in this quiet, snow-lit moment, with my hand against the sleeping rose and my heart full of names I never expected to carry, I know, with a certainty deeper than any vow I ever spoke, I am exactly where I am meant to be. Not in spite of what was taken, but because of what I chose to grow in its place. The bud will open when it's ready, and when it does, it will be breathtaking. The snow didn't come at all this year. Instead, a cold, steady rain fell through the night, washing the streets clean and turning the world a soft, reflective gray. I woke to the sound of water dripping from the gutter outside my window, a rhythmic patter that felt like the town itself was breathing, slowly, thoughtfully. At 77, mornings are slower. My hands take longer to steady around the coffee cup. My knees require a moment of negotiation before they agree to carry me across the room. But the ritual remains. French press, dark roast, balcony door cracked open just enough to let in the damp air and the faint scent of wet earth. I stood there longer than usual, watching the rain trace rivers down the glass. The roses on the balcony are bare now, pruned back hard in November, their canes tied neatly against the trellis. They look severe, almost brutal in their nakedness, but I know better. Under the bark, sap is already rising. I've learned to trust what can't yet be seen. Second Chapter House celebrated its 10th anniversary last fall. We didn't throw a party. Too many women living there needed the quiet more than the noise. But we gathered in the courtyard at dusk. Someone strung fairy lights through the bare rose arbor. Lisa read a letter from a former resident who'd just bought her first home. Marisol served tamales from the recipe her mother taught her the week she arrived, terrified and penniless. Grace's son, now 18, played guitar, soft minor chords that made the rain sound like it was crying with us, not on us. When it was my turn to speak, I didn't. I simply raised my mug of cider and said, "To the ones who stayed and to the ones who left stronger." That was enough. The bookstore has changed too. The shelves are fuller, the corners softer. There's a children's nook now, with tiny chairs painted the colors of rose petals, deep crimson, soft pink, creamy white. Dune and Ivy spend hours there on Saturdays, helping by rearranging picture books into rainbows. Elias joins them when Tommy drops him off, bossy in the way only a 7-year-old can be about story order. I sit nearby with my knitting, scarves for whoever needs warmth, and listen to their serious debates about whether dragons or unicorns would win in a fight. Tommy and Aisha's twins are 4 now, sturdy and fearless. Lucia has Elena's dark eyes and my stubborn chin. Mateo has Tommy's crooked grin and Aisha's quick laugh. They call the courtyard the secret garden and believe with absolute certainty that the roses bloom only when children are kind to each other. I've never corrected them. Mia married Leo last summer in a small gallery in Chicago. Only 40 guests, all people who'd earned a place in her complicated, beautiful life. She wore a simple dress the color of rose leaves, and when she walked down the aisle, really just a path between sculptures, she carried a single stem of Sarah's Redemption, the hybrid rose a friend developed from cuttings of my balcony plants. Leo's vows were quiet, almost whispered. I promise to water the roots you choose to show me and to trust the ones you keep hidden until you're ready. I cried through the whole ceremony. Afterward, Mia pressed the rose into my hand and said, "You taught me what roots are for." The dried petals are in a shadow box above my desk now. Lisa's surprise baby, River, a boy with June's curls and Ivy's solemn stare, was born healthy last spring. She jokes that she's done collecting children now, but the way she looks at him tells another story. Mark and Jenna stopped at 4, but their house is never empty. Grandkids, second chapter teens needing a weekend away, exchange students from the university. The farm has become a living thing, seasons marked by apple blossoms, pumpkin vines, Christmas tree cuttings, snow-covered fields waiting for spring. I don't write books anymore. The words feel finished, or perhaps I've said what needed saying. Instead, I keep a journal, small, leather-bound, 1 page a day. Some entries are only a sentence. Elias lost his first tooth today and insisted the tooth fairy bring a rose petal instead of money. Others stretch longer, memories that surface unbidden, like the way Tom used to hum while making Saturday sandwiches, or the exact shade of Elena's eyes which she realized the depth of the lie we'd both lived under. The pain isn't gone. It never will be. Some nights I still wake at 3 a.m. with the old ache in my chest that asks, how did I not know? But the ache has changed shape. It's no longer a wound, it's a reminder. A scar that proves I survived, that I grew around the injury instead of letting it define the whole. This afternoon, after the rain eased to a mist, Lisa came by with River in a sling against her chest. She didn't knock, just used her key and brought in the smell of wet pavement and baby shampoo. We sat on the balcony under the awning, sharing coffee, decaf for her, full strength for me, watching droplets bead on the bare rose canes. "Mom," she said after a long silence, "do you ever wish it had been—"
And here, in the quiet, rain-washed light of this ordinary morning, with my hand against the sleeping rose and my heart carrying every name I have ever loved, those who stayed, those who left, those who arrived unexpected, I understand the deepest truth of all. Tom's lie took 42 years from me. But the truth gave me everything that came after. And everything that came after, every laugh in the courtyard, every child's hand in mine, every woman who walked through second chapter's door and found her way out stronger, every rose that bloomed late but brighter than before, is worth infinitely more. I am Sarah Ellison. I was betrayed. I was broken open. I chose to heal. I chose to grow. I chose to love wider than the hurt. And in choosing, I became the woman I was always meant to be. Not the one who lived unaware in a careful illusion, but the one who stands now, eyes clear, roots deep, petals open to whatever light comes next. The bud will open when it's ready. It always does. And when it does, it will carry the scent of every tear that watered it, every hand that tended it, every heart that refused to close. That fragrance will drift farther than any lie ever could. It will say, without words, "You are enough. You were always enough. And your story, the true one, the hard one, the beautiful one, is still blooming." Thank you, life, for the breaking and the mending and the blooming that followed. I am here. I am whole. I am home. And that, after everything, is the most breathtaking ending a heart could ever ask for. Hey, besties! Auntie Unplugged here, coming to you straight from the heart after that emotional roller coaster of a story. If you cried, laughed, or felt even a tiny bit seen while reading Sarah's journey, then you already know this channel is your safe space for real, raw, relatable drama with a side of hope and healing. So do me a solid, hit that subscribe button right now, turn on the notification bell, you know, the one that goes ding, and join the Auntie family. We're growing every day with stories that remind us, no matter how deep the roots of pain go, we can still bloom brighter on the other side. The next video is already in the works. More tears, more truth, more auntie wisdom, and of course, a whole lot of love. You do not want to miss it. Thank you for being here with me through every chapter. I love you all so much. Now go subscribe. I'll wait right here till you do it. See you in the next one. Auntie Unplugged.